So, good morning and welcome to Yoga Over 50 coming from Blue Point Yoga Center. My name is Lynn and it's good to have you with me today. So, let's begin well, first I'll tell you what we're going to do today. So, I've been doing a lot of gardening. I think a lot of people have been doing a lot of gardening, and it makes my body cranky. So I've been paying attention to what gets cranky and what sort of yoga poses would be helpful and movements would be helpful for strengthening the things that I seem to be using while gardening and also relieving the stresses that I get into. So I thought I would share some of those with you in the course of a yoga session or two this week. And you can send me some messages and tell me how it goes. So we're going to begin in child's pose, but if you are not comfortable being in child's pose with your back rounded, so if you are comfortably able to fold down and allow the small of your back to round, maybe supporting your head, then go ahead and do that. If you need to keep your bum up higher but can still keep your back a bit rounded, you could put a pillow or a roll of blanket or something under your bum so that you can feel more comfortable. If you need to be where your back starts to have a little inward curve to it, then that's not the idea here. We want the just well-supported rounding of the back. So if you find yourself in this position with your back being extended rather than rounded, just lie on your side in a fetal position instead. You can just lie down, support your head on a pillow or on your arm, and let your back curl up a little bit so that your knees are a little bit up towards your chest and so forth. If you're comfortable in the child's pose, just let yourself rest. Let your head rest heavily and bring your attention inward here. You can have your arms along your sides if that's comfortable, letting your shoulders round forward. We don't usually do this kind of curling up thing, but with the weight of the body supported on the legs and on the floor, I think it's quite safe to do so, as long as you're comfortable and as long as your knees are comfortable. So bring your attention inward. And of course, if you can't breathe in this position, that's also not very helpful, in which case you might want to use the fetal position on your side instead. In order to help with the breathing, you can let your knees be kind of far apart so that your torso can settle down between your legs. So draw your attention inward. Not much to look at from this position, so you let your eyes close or let your gaze be soft. Bring your attention to your breath, and especially bring your attention to the breath in the back of your body. Especially feeling the motion of your ribs toward the back of your body, and feeling the relaxation on the lower part of your back, the back of your hips, as you breathe in. And maybe you can feel a little bit of a stretching sensation lengthwise along the waist part of your spine. Maybe a little stretching sensation side to side across the lower back as you're breathing here. So crankiness in the lower back is, for me, one of the consequences of too much gardening. And so finding ways to gently release and relax the lower part of the spine and around the hips is a great idea. And again, if you're not comfortable, your body's not going to be able to relax. So better to be on your side, able to relax, than struggling in child's pose.
Let your breath travel in and out through any parts of your body that seem to be resisting the message to relax. And then let your breath return to its unobserved pattern. We'll begin with a little warm up here. So stretch your arms out ahead of you. I'll try to be careful not to turn my headphones off here. Press your palms into the mat. The elbows are up off the mat. Your head can rest down if it was comfortably, do so. Otherwise, it might be up between your arms. Press down into the mat. Stretch your fingers out away from you, hips, and stretch your hips back behind you so that you get a long line on both sides of your torso. And then on an inhale, walk your fingers over to the right. Press down through your left hip and your left hand and let your breath travel into the left side of your torso, really feeling the ribs move there. Taking extra stretch there. On your next inhale, walk your hands back through the center and over to the left and press down through your right hip and your right hand, stretching along the right side of your body, past your right armpit. Let the breath travel into the right ribs, feeling them flare out there and settle back down as you breathe out. And walk the hands back to the center. Press into the hands. So here we have a kind of a cantilevered position with your core muscles supporting your upper body, the weight of your upper body. So press into the hands, press into the pads at the base of the fingers, roll the back of the upper arms toward each other, draw the hands toward each other a little bit to support your body. Just take a couple of breaths here. And then you can walk your hands back to come to a hands and knees position. Set up the wrists under the shoulders, the knees under the hip joints. Stretch a long line from the back of your hips out through your shoulders, out through the back of the neck, long in the back of the neck, out through the crown of the head. And on an inhale, stretch the right leg back behind you, press into the ball of the foot and the toes, and stretch through the bottom of the foot and the back of the leg. And exhale to return that knee under you, and then inhale to bring the other leg back, the heels pressing straight up toward the ceiling. Press through the ball of the feet to stretch the bottom of the foot and the back of the leg, and return that knee underneath you. And now lift your right arm alongside the ear, pressing into both supporting knees and the tops of the feet and the supporting hand. Breathe here, palm facing in. Lower that right hand. And then we'll inhale and bring the left arm out alongside the ear, pressing into the hand and the supporting knees. Try to keep everything as symmetrical as possible. And lower that hand down. And now we'll do some spinal balance. So we'll have the right hand and the left leg coming back, reaching long from the back of the heels out through the fingertips, and exhale back down. And inhale the opposite pair up, stretching long, toes pointing straight down, hips level. And exhale back down once more, back to the other side. So the right arm and the left leg. And exhale back down. And the opposite pair, the left arm and the right leg, stretching long, back down. And then exhale, let your hips come back over your heels again. And take another bit of a rounding of the back in child's pose. So let the small of the back round. Feel the breath. Press up toward the ceiling. And now bring your arms back alongside your hips. And we're going to rise up onto the knees. So on an inhale, press to rise up, raise the arms up overhead. You can take a small back bend at the top if you like. And exhale and fold yourself back down where you came from. And inhale, rise up. So just follow at your own breath pace. Slowly rising up on the inhale, slowly folding back down on the exhale. And back down, take a breath here, feel the small of the back, round out, relax a little bit, and then you'll bring your hands back forward and inhale back up to hands and knees. So my feeling about this gardening thing is that gardening involves a lot of kind of bracing and sort of cantilevered motions. Sometimes I garden on my hands and knees, I'm reaching out, doing something with one arm. Sometimes I'm reaching out with both arms to do something like a little bit back over the hips. Sometimes I'm leaning over from a standing position. We'll practice a little bit of that later. So I figure what you have to do is to strengthen the muscles that you use when you're reaching out with one arm and the other from a kneeling or hands and knees position. And you also have to relieve any strain that arises from the bracing that's required to do that. So we're going to both strengthen and relieve. So now let's do a little relief so we can have just a little circling. So for the relief part, we're going to do just some easy motions, articulating the back a little bit. So I'm just kind of swiveling my hips around, going a few times around one way and then a few times around the other way. And I'm just going to do a little modified cat and cow. So I'm going to just stretch along the lower part of the spine and the back on the exhale, drawing up the abdominal muscles. That's strengthening as well. And on the inhale, I'm going to stretch through the upper part of the front of the spine, drawing the heels of the hands back toward the knees, and then back the other way. So not emphasizing on the exhale, the hunching up of the shoulders, don't really need to do that. More emphasizing the stretching along the lower part of the spine from the waist down to the tailbone. And on the inhale, emphasizing opening the front of the chest. And the other thing I think is helpful is a little bit of rotational movement. So on an inhale, you're going to raise your right hand away from the floor out to the side and turn in that direction, sort of semi-stacking one shoulder above the other, not all the way probably, and roll it back down. And then on an inhale, we'll go the other way, raising the left arm up, stacking the left shoulder above the right, keep pressing into the other hand, exhale back down. We'll go to the other side, rolling the shoulder open, exhaling back down, and now to the left again, rolling open, and exhaling back down. And take another little break back in child's pose. And then we'll come up to a hands and knees position. And let's bring one foot forward. The other thing we'll do to relieve this is we'll bring the right foot forward between the hands. You can bring it out to the outside and then put it back to the center. That'll work fine. And then once you get here, just check that you've lined up the joints of the legs so that the knee and the ankle and the middle of the foot on each leg are lined up with its respective hip joint. You can either keep kind of a square position under your legs, or you can slide the back knee back and the front foot forward to have more of a triangle position. And the other thing I think that happens with a lot of hands and knees or squatting or bending over is that the psoas muscle, the hip flexor at the front of the hip, gets tight. So we'll give it a bit of a stretch here. So we're giving it a sort of an active stretch using a bit of the weight of the body. So you can roll your your left hip down toward your right ankle and roll back the other way, just sort of noticing what's different about stretching there. Keeping the spine long, so if you feel in this position, like your arms aren't long enough and you have something that you can put under them, like some thick books or blocks if you have them, that could be helpful. And then let's tuck the back toe and raise the knee away from the floor in a long and low lunge, stretching from the heel all the way up through the hips, out through the shoulders, long in the back of the neck, stretching out through the top of the head. And then we'll let that knee back down again. You can flatten the foot or leave the toe tucked, either one. Press through the feet and through the supporting knee to raise the spine upright so that the shoulders come over the hips. We'll bring the arms out to cactus arm position here. And we'll just take a little gentle twisting here. So exhale, turn in the direction of the bent knee. You can let your hips move as well. Keep the spine upright. So we don't want to be kind of leaned over and twisting at the same time. Keep the spine long. And you can rotate the other way a little bit too. And come back to the center. And put the hands down to the mat. Tuck the back toe. Put the weight into the hands. Slide your front foot back to join the back foot in down dog. Take a bit of a stretch there, which is both strengthening for the core muscles and also gives a stretch to the back of the legs and along the sides of the torso. And we're going to gently move the left foot up between the hands. Would be perfectly okay to come down first to hands and knees and then move the foot up, either out and around the arms or up between, whichever works. And again, you can have either sort of a square shape under the legs or slide the back knee back to have more of a sort of a long, low triangle between the legs. Check that your front knee hasn't gone, I'm trying to get my arms out of the way, hasn't gone past the front ankle. A little safer for the legs that way. And stretch long from the knee that's planted up through the hips, out through the shoulders, long in the back of the neck, out through the top of the head. You can roll the hips a little bit, rolling the right hip toward the left ankle and rolling the other way a little. Just noticing that the stretch in the front of the hip changes a bit when you do that. And come back to the center, and then tuck the toe on the back foot to come up into a low lunge position. Again, we're stretching long from the heel of the extended leg up through the hips, out through the back of the neck, out through the top of the head. And then lower the knee back down. You can leave the toe tucked or flatten the foot, whichever you like, and press through the supporting foot, the supporting knee, and the top of the foot of the back leg to bring your torso into an upright position. And we'll bring the arms up to cactus arms for a tall spine here. Keep breathing. You can leave one or both hands down onto the leg if you like for balance. We just do a little rotational movement here, exhaling to turn toward the bent knee. Keep the spine stretching long. And on an inhale, come back through the center. Let your hips move a little bit too as you do this. Turn the other way. And come back to the center. Bring the hands to the mat. Put the weight into your hands. Tuck the back toes. Slide the front foot back to come to down dog. Press through the hands. Press the hands away from the hips. Give a bend to the knees and then straighten them a few times. And then let the hands walk back toward the feet. Keep the spine long the whole time. So now you're kind of folded over your thighs. And then we'll press through the feet, straightening the knees, coming to that L-shaped position with the floor. Then let your knees bend. Slowly swing the arms out to the front and very slowly stand up
to come to a standing mountain position, and exhale the arms back down by your sides. So we'll take the standing mountain position, so finding the joints of the hips a little in and a little down from the bony corners at the front of the hips, and lining up the long bones of the legs, the joints of the legs, and the long axis of the feet under those points, more or less, depending on your body. Close your eyes a moment as you stand here so that you can feel your weight into your feet. Feel the weight into the pads at the base of the toes. Lift the toes themselves and spread them out wide, and then set them back down again. Feel some weight into the pads at the heels of the feet. Press along the inside edges of both feet. Press along the outside edges of both feet. So now you have gecko feet sucking you down toward the floor, and everything else growing upward from there, as if you were drawing on some very tight clothes past your ankles, past your shins, past your knees, past your thighs, up past your hips, along your torso. Your torso is getting longer as you're drawing the clothing upward. The back of your neck is getting longer, out through the crown of your head where your hair grows from. Turn the palms forward a moment to feel broad across the top of the chest, and then let the lower arms relax. Let your eyes come open. And just take a couple easy breaths here. You might check with your hands on your lower belly. Make sure your belly is relaxed enough that it's pressing out when you breathe in and drawing back in as you breathe out. Don't want to have so much tension in the abdomen that you aren't breathing freely. Okie doke. So I'm going to turn to the side because we're going to do a little bit of hinging forward from the hips. So let's inhale the arms up overhead and exhale and fly forward, hinging at the hip joint. Let the knees bend as much as you need to keep your back stretching long. So sometimes in gardening, you want to kind of walk around and pick at one thing or another, you know, maybe deadheading plants or pulling some tallish weeds. If the weeds are short, I'd say get down on your hands and knees instead. So being able to hold a position like that and then, you know, move your arms around. We could try some airplane arms or some cactus arms. We could even reach them out alongside the ears, more of a lever arm on the body. So drawing on core strength here, and also drawing on good posture of the spine, and also drawing on the strength of the muscles in the legs and around the hips too. Okay. And now let's inhale and bring the arms back overhead and bring the hands down to the heart. So let's do that again, and we're going to add a little movement thing onto that. So we'll inhale the arms up overhead and exhale and hinge forward. Please feel free to bend your knees as much as you like, and when you are actually gardening, let your hips come back behind you, put them behind you so that the spine can stay stretching long. In this case, we're going to bring the arms around and lay them over the small of the back with the palms facing up. And then we're going to do a little movement sequence here. So on an inhale, bring your right arm forward. We're going to scoop it up as you stand up. Keep the spine coming up all as one unit. Bring the arm out to the right side as you turn your head to the left and hinge forward again and lay that arm back down with the palm facing out. And then we'll come with the other arm. So the left arm's coming out. It's scooping up as you raise your spine all as one unit. Turn your head to the right and the arm reaches out to the left as you exhale and come back down into this half L shape. Knee bend is great here. And then we'll are back to the right arm. So we're turning the head away as the arm comes around out to the side and back down. We're inhaling as we come up Exhaling as we hinge again. Again, a bend to the knees is perfect here. Keeping the spine long. And when you've completed the same number to each side, we'll come back to this L-shaped position and let the hands slide down the legs, hinge down, bend through the knees, inhale, press through the feet to rise back up again, and bring the hands together and exhale the hands down to the heart. Okay, super. So now let's do a little standing stretch for the muscles at the front of the hips, the psoas muscles. Just going to move forward a little bit. And I'm going to exhale to sit into chair. This is great in itself, good for the quad muscles here. So maybe let's just spend a few breaths here. We can bring the arms out into cactus arms to emphasize broadness across the top of the chest. You can experiment with shifting your weight a little forward and a little back here. Notice what the difference is and where the weight is taken through the legs, through the knees, through the thighs. Bring the hands together, shift the weight into your right foot and step back with the left foot. So stretch the left foot back behind you, to land more or less on the ball of the foot and the toes. Bring the spine upright. You can let your hands hang down a moment so that you see that your shoulders are over your hips. Press out through the back leg with the heel pointing straight up toward the ceiling. You can bring the arms up alongside the ears in warrior arms if you like, but having them out in a wide V shape would be fine, and having them out in cactus arms would be fine too. So we're getting quite a bit of a stretch out of the front of the left leg here. You can do that same rolling thing that we did in the low lunge position in this high lunge position, rolling the hips toward the right ankle and then away. Just noticing where the stretch comes. And then we're going to bring the hands up alongside the ears and hinge forward from the hips into an arrow lunge, reaching from the back heel, straight up through the spine, out through the fingertips. Keep length in the back of the neck so your face is going to go a little bit down toward the floor here. And then press through the feet to inhale yourself back upright again. Exhale the hands down to the heart and step back forward into the standing mountain position and take a couple of breaths here. When you have your hands to your heart, just check to make sure that your shoulders are down away from your ears toward the back of your body. So don't let your bringing your hands together in front of the body create a hunching in the shoulders. And now we'll sit into chair again. Keep the spine stretching long. Check that you haven't bent. You've got your weight back far enough. You can see a little bit of your toes. Put the weight into your left foot this time and stretch back with the right toes and take a long stance here. If this is too tippy, turn the back heel in a little bit and flatten the foot and take warrior one legs instead. Bring your torso upright. You can let your arms dangle a moment to ensure that your shoulders are up above the hips. And then we'll bring the arms up, whatever position you like. It could be warrior arms, either with the arms straight up alongside the ears, or with them out in a wide V, or it could be cactus arms. Any of those will be fine. Give a little roll of the hips to one side and to the other, bringing the back hip forward to point toward the right ankle, rolling it out the other way, feeling a little bit different stretch at the front of the hip. And then we'll hinge forward from the hips, bringing the belly closer to the thighs, stretching from the back heel all the way up through the fingertips. Keep the back of the neck long, so you're looking a little bit down toward the floor.
And we'll inhale back upright again. Bring the hands to the heart and step back forward. Okay. Okay, great. So let me turn around this way again. So we'll do a little balance pose here, a little standing balance pose. So it might sound like everything goes wrong when I garden, but the other thing that happens is I really feel it around the sides and the back of my hips. And I think that when I'm either taking a gardening position like this one and reaching out and kind of cantilevered in space, or when I'm standing up and doing the same sort of thing, got my butt behind me, knees bent, reaching out for something, a lot of bracing is happening on the back and the sides of the legs and the hips. So we can train those muscles. We can give them a little extra ability to create stability in these positions. And we'll do that with kind of an oblique standing balance. So find a standing mountain position with the feet directly under the hip joints. Move your weight a little bit back toward your heels. Shift your weight into your left foot, and here's where the muscles on the outside of the leg really come into play to draw the hip of that standing leg a little bit in toward the center line of your body, and that'll make the right hip hitch up a little bit. We're going to just stand that right toe out to the side with the toe and the knee of that leg facing forward. Shift your weight of your standing leg a little toward the heel. Make yourself as long as possible from the planted foot up through the left side of the body. We're going to raise the left arm up alongside the left ear. Just let the right arm rest alongside the extended right leg. And you could stay right there, or you could take more weight out of your right foot and raise that foot up away from the floor. If you flex at the ankle and really create some activity in that foot as you raise it away from the floor, activating the muscles all the way up the leg, it seems to be a little easier to raise the leg. So, and touch the toe down whenever you need for balance. Pick something to look at that's not moving. Keep actively stretching from your planted foot to your raised fingers, across your body from your raised foot to the fingers alongside your ear, and from the hand that's pointing down to the floor alongside your extended leg, across your body and up through the raised fingers. And keep hugging yourself in toward the midline. So it's tempting to sort of stray way out over the standing leg. See if you can keep yourself standing more upright over the midline without having to fall down. Keep breathing. And when you're done experimenting on that side, let the arm come down, let the leg come back down, and step your feet a little apart. We'll relieve that with another one of those easy twisting motions, just letting the arms swing, letting the knees bend, letting the hips turn, the knees kind of go past each other. And then step back to the center, and we'll do that on the other side. So we'll first begin in the standing mountain position with the feet under the hip joints. Shifting the weight a little toward the heel. Bring the weight into your right foot now and draw the right hip in underneath you, and stand the left leg out to the side, toe facing forward, knee facing forward. And we'll bring the right arm up alongside the ear. Stretch the spine long, keep length in the back of the neck. So the hip of the extended leg, that's your left hip, is up a little bit compared to the other leg. That's right. And if you like, you can bring the extended leg foot up off the floor. Flex at the ankle a little bit to create activity in the muscles of that leg. Keep drawing yourself toward the midline. Stretch from your planted right foot up through the right fingers and across your body from the left foot up to the right fingers and from the left fingers to the right fingers. And you may notice
a lot of difference from side to side into how much you shift from one side to the other, and in how easy or how difficult it is to maintain this position. I think this is one of those poses that really bring out asymmetries. And when you're done experimenting on that side, let the arm down, let the foot down, maybe just give a bit of a shrug of the shoulders, let the arms flop, let the knees bend, bending up and down to relieve that. Okay, cool. Now, think to yourself, which side seemed less steady as I was doing that, and go back to that side. So it might have been the one that we just did, might have been the first side. So for me, it was the first side. So stand on the leg of that side that seemed where it was harder to keep yourself gathered in toward the midline, or harder to keep yourself steady. Set up with that as your standing leg, raise the arm on that side, extend the other foot out at an angle. Press into the standing foot, reach up through the fingertips. If you like, bring the extended leg's foot up away from the floor, giving a little flexion at the ankle. Really use the muscles on the outside of the standing leg to keep yourself drawn in toward the center line of your body. And we won't quite spend so much time here since this side has already had some activity. And let the arm come down, let the leg come down, and just take any kind of loose bob and twist to relieve that if you like. And we'll head back down toward the floor. So stand in a standing mountain position. Inhale the arms up overhead. Exhale, hinge forward from the waist. Let your hands slide down your legs. We'll take another pause here, sitting into chair. Give a little more action to the quad muscles here. And then hinge, exhale, fold over, let your arms stretch back behind you in the skier's posture. Experiment a little bit here with you bringing your arms to different positions. Could be out to the sides like an airplane, a skiing airplane. Could be cactus arms here. Could even be reaching the arms out alongside the ears. We're taking another of those cantilevered positions. And bring the hands back in. Bring the hands to the floor. Walk the feet forward and back. The hands forward and the feet back to come to a down dog. Take a couple breaths here. You can take any kind of pedaling of the feet that appeals to you. You can also roll your hips, bending one knee deeply, looking out under the opposite armpit. Roll back through the center. Stretches the muscles on the outside of the hips that we've just been working at. Come back to the center. Inhale to come forward to any species of plank that you like. Take a breath or two here, and then keeping the elbows close to your body, lower yourself down to the floor. Flatten the feet, stretch the legs out behind you, rest your chin or your forehead. Let your hands rest on the floor, palms down, thumbs out to the side. We'll just do a couple of little locust poses here. Exhale to draw the belly muscles away from the floor. Inhale to stretch through the feet, the hands, and the crown of the head to bring your legs up off the floor a little bit and a little bit of your chest and your face up away from the floor. Your face is still looking at the floor, however. And exhale down again. And inhale up. So stretch long. High is not important. Think of making your body as long as possible from your feet all the way up through the top of your head. Stretch the arms behind you, roll the shoulders away from the floor. Exhale back down, and this time let your hands make a little pillow for the head. Bend at the knees and take a little swishing or a little circling of the feet
to make a little rotational movement through the spine. And now we're going to come over onto your backs, and I want to do a supported bridge. So if you have a block, that's great. If you have a big book like a dictionary or an encyclopedia or something, that's great. If you have got a fairly big blanket that you could roll up to make a sort of a faddish roll, that will work. And if you want, you can roll up your mat and make a support out of your mat. So I'll just do that real quick. And that's not very fat. I think I'm going to use my blanket instead. So then what you're going to do is lower yourself down so you're on your back. You've got a symmetrical position with each hip equal distance away from its shoulder. The sacrum is resting on the block or the book or the roll of blanket or mat. Your hips are lined up with your hip joints. Your knees are lined up with your hip joints. You can let your arms stretch out to the sides. Let the palms face up so that your shoulders are rolling away from the front of the body toward the floor. Adjust whatever you're on so that your hips feel comfortable, so that this can be a restful position. So we're just going to take several breaths here. And then we're going to take a passive stretch of the muscles at the front of the hips, the psoas muscles, which are the large muscles that are responsible for bringing your thigh close to your body, as if they would do if you were going to sort of step your feet up and down from the floor. If you put your hands at the front of your hips, you'll feel those muscles working. Those seem to get tight in these forward bent positions. That's common in gardening. So we're going to give a little extra stretch to them. So with the hips propped up, carefully leave the weight into your legs. Press your right heel away from you on the floor. So leave the weight of the foot into the floor. So don't use that muscle in the front to lift your leg up away from the floor. Just press it away. Now, just be a little mindful here. Some people's sacroiliac joints around the back of the hips don't like this sort of a maneuver. And if that's the case, then don't do this. Just, you can take the roll out from underneath you and just extend your leg long, pressing the weight of the foot into the floor to press the leg long as you lie flat on the floor. If this is okay, then you can get a little extra stretch by having your hips propped up here. So you can do one leg at a time, or you can experiment with also pressing the other foot away from you. Again, leave the weight of the leg into the floor as you press away. So it's going to kind of skid away on the mat. Don't lift the leg and set it back down. So if it's comfortable to have both legs extended, you can stretch both of the psoas muscles at once. If not, one leg at a time might work for you, or no legs at a time might work, in which case just take the prop out from under your sacrum and just lie flat on the floor with your upper body. So we did some active stretching of these muscles before in both the low lunge and the high lunge positions, but now we're just letting gravity be responsible for stretching the muscles at the front of the hips. You can also do this by lying at the edge of your bed with your hips hanging a little bit off the bed, and let your heel rest on the floor and draw the opposite knee in towards your chest, like this. And you could try that here too, drawing the one knee in toward the chest while you stretch the opposite hip flexor. It feels great to me. Of course, if your bed's not the right height, then that won't go very well. So you just see what works. You can just let your leg sort of drop off the bed. It doesn't really matter if your heel doesn't touch the floor. Just be cautious as you do that. If you're doing it on the edge of the bed, and in order to get back up, don't try to sit yourself up with your abdominal muscles. Instead, roll yourself to the side and push yourself up with your hands. I'm going to switch out and let this other heel skid away from me and carefully draw my other leg in. So I'm taking a stretch between the two legs in this propped up position. Bring that foot down to the floor, and I'm going to skid the other heel back in so that I'm again in the supported bridge position. And then press through the feet, raise your bum enough so that you can take your prop out from underneath you, if indeed you have a prop there. Set up with the feet and the knees at hip joints width apart and the palms up, arms a little bit away from your body on the floor. We'll just take a couple of easy bridges here, inhaling to press through the feet and raise the hips away from the floor, exhaling to lower back down. Let the spine move all as one unit, so we're not articulating up vertebrae by vertebrae or articulating down. Just some easy ups and downs, pressing especially into the inside edge of the feet. And then stretch the arms out to the sides in a T shape. And either with your feet flat on the floor with knees bent, or you can bring your feet up off the floor as if your legs were resting on a chair or something. And we're just going to have a little twisting here. So inhaling to bring the knees down to the left, exhaling to bring them through the center, inhaling to roll them off to the right, and exhaling back through the center. Just repeat whichever position of those you like better at the pace of your own breath, using the exhale to recruit the abdominal muscles to bring the legs up through the center. And when you've done an equal number to both sides, come back to the center, let the feet come back to the floor. If you've raised them, walk the feet out away from you. And now let your right knee drop into the center. The left knee can either stay up toward the ceiling or be out to the left side. And reach up with your right arm. So you have your right knee pointing down toward the bottom of your mat and your right arm reaching up, taking a big stretch along the right side of the body. Let the breath travel there. Maybe you can feel some stretching along the side of the hip. And on an exhale, bring the knee back up to the center and lower the arm back to the T shape. And now let your left knee drop in toward the center and reach your left arm up alongside your ear. So point down with the knee, reach up through the fingers, take a long stretch on that side of the body, up past the hip. Breathe into the open left side of the body, especially in the waist area. And then exhale to bring the knee back up to the center, then the arm down. And it is time for Shavasana. So any type of Shavasana that you like, it could be lying with the arms outstretched alongside your body, palms facing up is great, regardless of what else you're doing as far as position goes. The legs could be just stretched out flat on the floor. You could have your knees bent and your feet flat. You could take that prop and prop under your knees. I have a roll of blanket here. I'm going to get a chair and put my lower legs up on a chair. That's a great restful Shavasana position.
So is putting your legs up a wall. So whatever position you like. Make yourself comfortable so that you can be very still. Check to make sure that every part of you that is touching a prop, touching the wall, the chair, the floor, is sinking completely into it. Let your exhalation sink you a little deeper into whatever things are supporting you. Bring your attention inward, let your eyes close or your gaze be soft. This is the time to rest and let yourself integrate what you've just been doing. Let your breath come easily in and easily out. Now, if you'd like to spend longer in Shavasana, go ahead and leave the meeting and stay as long as you like. Otherwise, bring a little movement to your hands and your feet. Excuse me. Maybe move the head side to side a little bit. If you've got your legs outstretched or on a chair or up the wall, bend one knee at a time so you can bring your knees toward your chest. If your legs are up the wall, you might need to scoot away a little bit to give yourself room. Hug the knees in. Just use your arms to gently move your knees side to side, giving your lower back a little massage on the floor. And then let that rolling carry you over to one side and rest there with your eyes closed for a few breaths. And then when you're ready, on an exhale, push with your arms, let your torso kind of face down toward the floor so there's no stress on the
belly muscles of the neck as you come up to a seated position. This chair out of my way. And take whatever you like to sit on for just a moment here. So you can cross your legs or have your legs outstretched, whatever's comfortable. Sit a little forward on the sits bones so that you can have a little inward curve at the small of the back and a tall spine. See if you can relax these muscles at the front of the hips so that they don't have to hold you upright. Your posture of the shoulders over the hips can be what keeps you in an upright position. So think long all the way along your spine from the tailbone through the back of the neck, out the top of the head. Shoulders relaxed away from the ears, elbows hanging down close to the body. And without disturbing your shoulders, bring the palms together and the thumbs near your breastbone. Pause and feel your heart, feel your breath. We'll close with one Om after an inhale. Thanks for sharing your practice together today, and namaste.